Thank you, Lily, and welcome everybody. My name is John Schaefer. I'm the Associate Director for Graduate Student Success and Professional Development. And this is our final guest speaker session for our careers outside of academia, specifically for humanities. And I am very pleased to introduce our two guest speakers. First, we have Maggie Nettesheim Hoffmann. Maggie is the Associate Director of Career Diversity for the Humanities Without Walls consortium, headquartered in the Humanities Research Institute at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and she's based at Marquette University. She is responsible for guiding HWW's career diversity programming dedicated to transforming doctoral education for consortium partner schools and beyond. She is a co-PI on a $1.3 million sub-award from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation and HWW to Marquette University in support of HWW's career diversity work, and is completing a PhD in American history in the history of American philanthropy, capitalism, and progressive era political discourses critical of private wealth giving to public institutions. She was an HWW pre-doctoral career diversity fellow in 2017. And our second guest speaker, Blanca Garcia Barron, is currently a library technician at Mount San Jacinto Community College in Riverside County, California, and a graduate student in the MLIS program at San Jose State University. She earned her MA in Borderlands History at the University of Texas, El Paso, and holds a BA in Public and Oral History from the California State University, San Bernardino. Blanca was a career diversity fellow with the American Historical Society from 2018 to 2020 and a Humanities Without Walls Fellow in 2019. She is also a Kaleidoscope Program Scholar with the Association of Research Libraries. Her current studies focus on archival practices in theory, digital preservation, and critical librarianship. Pivoting from the history field to the academic librarianship, Blanca found a renewed sense of self and a place where her advocacy of BIPOC, BIPOC students is central to her practice. So I am thrilled to welcome Maggie and Blanca to our national perspectives on Humanities Without Walls, and I will turn it over to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, John. It's really delightful to be back with the University of Texas at San Antonio community. A couple of years ago, I had the real distinct honor to lead a different type of session in the fall of 2020. So I'm just very thrilled to be back with John, and I'm just so inspired by all the great programming that the graduate school does for all of you at UTSA. And I'm really excited to talk a little bit about Humanities Without Walls, and then to introduce you to our wonderful fellow, Blanca. So I'm going to share my screen because I put a little PowerPoint presentation together. So hopefully you can all see this when I open it up. Okay, and then I'm going to start the turn into slideshow. So here we go. Okay, so I hope that you can all see that, and if not, I can't see you, so we'll just carry forward. So as John mentioned, I am the Associate Director of Career Diversity for the Humanities Without Walls consortium. And I want to talk a little bit today about what we mean when we use that phrase, career diversity. And then also I'll share a little bit about the history of Humanities Without Walls, the work that we guide for our 16 consortium partners in the Midwest. And then I'll hand things off to Blanca. So career diversity as a phrase was a phrase first coined by the American Historical Association in 2011 in an article that they published in the Chronicle of Higher Education, referred to as No More Plan B. And I want to share a little bit of that article with you as I think a great way to contextualize the history of this movement. So the article writes, entering graduate students file in. They're nervous. They're eager, they don't quite know what to expect. If the director of graduate studies does the job well, the annual orientation ritual will nourish their anticipation while allaying their anxieties. Still, out of a sense of responsibility, faculty should keep one source of reasonable trepidation on the table: the job market. It is what it is, and entering students need to enter with their eyes open to it. But open to what? And what is the it that is the job market for historians? The academy alone? That is what we say when we offer statistics on placement. That is what we say when the department placement officer proffers the annual warning that ye who enter here do so at your own peril. Most orientations include a reference, in the best cases, even some focus on alternatives. But the default, the hope, the gold ring is the tenure track position. Like the American Historical Association in 2011, Humanities Without Walls really believes and advocates that career diversity, argues and suggests that there are multiple career pathways available to graduate students. That graduate education reform of the type that I get to run with HWW and our consortium partner schools ought to intentionally redefine what success means for graduate students. So today, in over nearly a decade of HWW and the AHA and other organizations like the MLA, as they've been guiding this work, career diversity has come to include curricular reforms, experiential internship opportunities, and the development of trained graduate advisors on campuses dedicated to the unique needs of graduate professional development. Most importantly, career diversity is the project that seeks to transform the culture of the academy, emphasizing broad career outcomes both within and beyond the academy, and centers the needs, values, and identities of graduate students. I would argue, and have learned from my work with HWW and our consortium partners, that career diversity, while we talk about career development, is first and foremost a student support programming project. So what is Humanities Without Walls? As I kind of mentioned briefly, we are a consortium of 16 greater Midwestern universities headquartered at the Humanities Research Institute at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and led by our PI, historian Dr. Antoinette Burton. Our values and guiding principles are dedicated to supporting interdisciplinary and cross-institutional collaboration, public engagement, and career diversity for humanities faculty and graduate students. The consortium was first formed in 2014 when we received our initial grant from the Mellon Foundation. In 2020, with the second renewal, we have received more than $12 million in grants from Mellon. As you can see on this slide, our consortium partners include the universities which comprise the Big Ten Academic Alliance, the University of Chicago, Notre Dame, the University of Illinois at Chicago, and Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I am currently based. We lead two major initiatives, but the one I'll be focusing on is the career diversity work I guide for our consortium partner schools. Our first initiative is our annual Summer Predoctoral Career Diversity Fellowship Workshop, of which I am an alum in 2017 and Blanca is an alum in 2019, which was an intensive and immersive 3-week summer workshop for doctoral students in the humanities hosted in Chicago. Originally, the workshop alternated between hosting students from consortial schools with a broader national call in 2017 and 2019. Now, the workshops are exclusively open to a national call. So if you're all interested, you can apply for this year's workshop. And they are now reimagined in a 2-week model hosted by our consortium partner schools. This year, the workshop will be hosted by our partners at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities. Our aim is to study how the workshop can move between universities, shaping the ways local context informs the construction of our programming. But in the last few years, we have learned that the work of graduate education reform requires more than a career bootcamp. And so we are now working on developing faculty and staff training institutes, implementing experiential internship programming with wraparound curriculum development for internship cohorts, rethinking employer and community engagement to help build sustainability into our programming efforts. And since HWW's first workshop in 2014, 2015, we have served over 205 fellows, and we'll be welcoming our new cohort during our workshop this July. In our time guiding and directing the programming of the workshop, we have come to learn a few important methods, which our fellows report to us as some of the strongest outcomes of their fellowship experience. These methods and best strategies include an emphasis on community building within each cohort that we believe models applied networking. And I think Blanca will talk a little bit about these methods as well. We prioritize reflection and values discernment, which center the needs of the individual fellow as the first step towards building a career filled with meaning. We include a series of career mechanics sessions, including how to write in distinct career sector genres. We provide lessons in how to conduct informational interviews and encourage our fellows to conduct a series of those interviews during their time at the workshop. And all of it, we hope, provides a toolkit of methods for our fellows, not just for the first placement or first post-graduation placement, but for all the future transitions you'll encounter in the course of your career. So I want to share briefly what we argue career diversity is not. Now, you've probably, if you're interested in these conversations, you may have referred to it as Alt-AC or Plan B. And I would suggest to you that Alt-AC or Plan B, while great discourses at the beginning of this movement about 10 to 15 years ago, where the first wave of scholars who recognized that, maybe we should be expanding the idea of what it is that we can do with a PhD. We should have other language to refer to this. But I think that Alt-AC and Plan B really otherize the movement to think about the variety of careers that a PhD could go into. And so I would suggest to all of you that all career outcomes are equal to one another, that they're not an alternative, that there's not some gold standard or a Plan A versus a Plan B. And so that's why we really try to use the language of career diversity to be inclusive and equitable. But we've also learned that our HWW workshop is only a beginning. And as I've emphasized before, universities really do need to start providing additional support and programming, including internships, providing curriculum support, building external partnerships with community partners, having a culture shift amongst faculty and advocating for faculty buy-in to this programming. And we believe all of that will lead to the sustainability of graduate education reforms. And if you're at all familiar with the history of this movement, and I highly encourage you to read a book called The New PhD by Leonard Cassuto and Robert Weisbuch, which lays out the history of a variety of waves of different graduate education reform movements over the last 50 or 60 years here in the United States. And in that book, you'll see that this is not a new conversation. The job market crisis is not new. This goes back to at least the 1960s and 1970s. And so that's why we see this as really being a movement that is about graduate education reform as much as it is trying to help graduate students think about their future careers. Okay, then finally, I want to share a little bit about the details for this year's HWW Career Diversity Workshop in case you're interested in applying. So it'll be held over 2 weeks at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. The dates are scheduled for July 17th through the 28th. You will be provided a residence, so you'll be living, if you decide to apply and are selected as a fellow, you'll be living on university campus housing. There's a $4,000 stipend. We'll have 25 fellows selected this year. And again, you'll have a variety of sessions on how to, career mechanics, site visits, discernment exercises, but above all, know that your needs will be prioritized as we help you think through collectively how to build your future careers. Okay, with that, I want to hand things off to Blanca.
Sorry about that. All right, well, thank you, Maggie. Thank you for all your presentation. So yeah, I kind of want to go over I guess, my own experience with career diversity and then the program, what I got from it, and just a little bit of my post HWW experience. So when I started my doctoral program, I went in 2016, from my BA to PhD, and I think I understood, like, or I was aware of the job market and all of the dire, all the dire news of the job market as a humanities PhD, right? That it's difficult. And so I definitely went into my program knowing that, but probably naively thinking that, that I didn't have to worry about that. But me being me, I'm the type of person that likes to have like plan A, B, C, D, E, all the type of plans. Like it's also part of my I don't know, my disaster mind, like just to think the worst, right? So anyway, so I went in with that. And so I kind of naturally gravitated towards career diversity when these conversations started to come up, especially with American Historical Association. My program at El Paso, UT El Paso, they were one of the pilot schools or the pilot programs within AHA's career diversity, one of the first programs to kind of try to implement this programming into their curriculum and into, the graduates or our graduate students. So I was in a pretty good place in that sense where the graduate director at the time was encouraging this. And so in 2018, I became or I applied to become one of the American Historical Association's Career Diversity Fellows. And that was a 2-year fellowship. And again, it introduced me to a lot of different career choices. And I think that really opened up a lot of, I guess it opened up more choices than I thought that I had, because I thought it was either just tenure track or public history, since I already had a public history background and I was doing oral history, and just, it opened up the possibilities of more than just those 2 tracks, right? And even then they're very similar tracks regardless. So yeah, so when HWW came up, I was told about it by another alum. I think it was 2018 alum. And so of course I had to apply, of course, and at the time it was a $5,000 fee stipend. So of course I was going to apply. But yeah, and so I did the Chicago cohort, and spent 3 weeks there. And just overall, the 3 weeks, like Maggie mentioned, it was pretty intense. Especially going from like your PhD structure, which can sometimes be unstructured. It's not a 9 to 5, right? And so the HWW structure was kind of a 9 to 5, where it was just intensive workshops, being in these conversations like Monday through Friday. And it was pretty demanding, but it was still great, right? And we still got to visit different places. We got a chance to get to know different people, different, our cohort, but also different people in different fields, PhDs, history PhDs, and working in different areas of academia as well. So yeah, 3 weeks, 3 weeks with that. But yeah, I guess one of the things that came from this, one of the things that came from this experience that I didn't really count on was just creating the community that I came away with. Within our cohort, a group of us started we just bonded, right? And I think we bonded over so many things, not just like our career trajectories of where, what we wanted to do, but also being BIPOC, right? Being BIPOC, being people of color in academia and what that means in our experiences. And so we just bonded over so many of those themes, and even walking away from that experience, I still, I guess we created a community of care where I still talk to a lot of these folks, and we're still, in each other's lives, far away, but, we're still supportive of each other. And I think that's one thing that we don't talk about a lot in academia or in our programs. I mean, we kind of talk about, sometimes we talk about like mental health, but uh, we don't really take the time to really what is it? Like, we don't take the time to really talk about it in depth of what it means to take care of ourselves in a PhD program, right? And I think HWW did that informally, well, in directly, but then in indirect ways, we were able to talk about, you know, our experiences with each other, and that helps in a way where it wasn't a competitive spirit, or in a way where, maybe perhaps in our own programs, you're kind of afraid to bring up these issues. You're afraid to bring up issues of, of not even going towards a tenure track, right? Or you're doubting the tenure track, or you have critiques of academia. But in HWW, we were able to do that in a constructive way, but also in ways where we probably wouldn't be able to do in our individual programs. So I think over that, there was that kind of bond already. And so some of my cohort mates, we just we just created community. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest takeaways from the shop, besides the networking and the introductions to different kinds of careers. It was just that was probably the most valuable thing that I took away from it. And so when I came into the program, I was already kind of on the fence my with my status in my own individual PhD program. So I was already, one foot in, one foot out. And I was just in the middle of trying to figure out if the PhD was right for me. And even voicing that, it was very, in my own individual program, it's not something that you should say. I mean, you could say it, but looking back, I should have said all these things. But at the time, I just didn't, because I thought, well, if I say these things, my mentor is just gonna give up on me. And in many ways, like I did kind of feel that, once I started to voice my apprehension about continuing the PhD. But so coming into the PhD, coming into HWW, that's where I was at. So it was a very critical point for me to figure out, should I continue the PhD if I'm not happy here. I'm not, it's not serving me, right? And so HWW kind of calmed those fears a little bit. Afterwards, I did decide to continue, but then when I came back from after HWW, I still decided to leave. But even then, though, like, I think that decision to leave my program was one of the best decisions for me. And I think what HWW also did for me was it let me, it brought out, I guess, like, my values, to really think about my system of values, right? What did I really want, not just out of a academic program or PhD program, master's program, whatever it is, but what do I want in life, right? To really sit down with myself and really think about like, what do I want out of a career that's going to serve my life, not me serving my career, right? And so I think, we had so many of those conversations in HWW. And like I said, it was sometimes some of the workshops were directly about that, but then those conversations would pop up indirectly in different types of presentations. And having this constant reflection helped me see that, right? I mean, I think I was lying to myself when I said I was going to finish the PhD, but coming back, I decided, you know what, I'm not. But I guess making that decision, it wasn't as scary as it was before, when I kind of knew, maybe a year before, I probably felt that I should have left, but I didn't, because I was scared to ask for help. I was scared to voice a lot of things, a lot of fears about the job market, fears about life in general. But again, HWW, it was that intense reflection that, coming back, once I said, you know what, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be here. Nobody's forcing me to be here. That like, it was a huge relief, huge weight off of my shoulders. And then obviously after that, I still struggled a bit to, figure out what I was going to do with that decision and afterwards in the job, right? But I think through my experience with, both the AHA and HWW's career diversity programming, I was able to really, like, I didn't come out, well, I left in 2020, March 2020, so it wasn't the best time to leave. But even then, after that, even now, I'm able to figure out, or I'm able to really, or let me backtrack. I'm like, right now, I know what I want to do. I'm in a better place where I'm confident in my skills and how my skills serve different career paths, right? And it's one of the reasons why I went into academic librarianship, and not just because it made sense for me, just feeling comfortable in these academic spaces, maybe not academia, but academic spaces for sure, and working with students. But even within that, now I have more confidence in what I can offer, right? But being more aware and confident of my skill set, of how it's, it serves different functions. It I don't know, it serves a lot of different things. But I guess that was another thing that I walked away from, was that agency and that choice that I didn't think I had in the PhD, or in the program going through that. Because again, like in the PhD, as Maggie mentioned, you get into these programs, and it just feels like you're being funneled into just a one track, right? The tenure track. That's what you're supposed to attain, right? And then there's no deviating, or if you do deviate from that, it's you're not good enough, or you're not working hard enough. Even though we know that everybody in a PhD, once you're in a PhD, you work, like, it's 24/7. So the working hard part is like default, right? We know we work hard. So it's not even about that. It just, a lot of times, it just feels like these tenure tracks are so elusive, and they feel like a lottery, that it creates this anxiety. And so I don't know, HWW and career diversity kind of offered that alternative, or just kind of to ease that anxiety of the job market. Just, at least least for some folks, I think if once they continue onto the page or onto their dissertation, it can let them focus on that, right? Focus on what they need to do in the moment rather than just being so fixated on the tenure, on, you know, the job market, even though I know, you know, we're all gonna feel that way, but I think it eases that anxiety of that. Um, so yeah, that's so it's a little bit of the experience that I got. And I mean, I highly recommend just being part of this cohort, just for so many reasons, you know, that being just the networking part, but I think the intense reflection really serves to really, you know, for us to think about, like I said, what we really want out of this. You know, we spent years of our lives committed to a project, and it's demanding, and some of us give up so much. Some of us put off having families. Some of us go to different states, and it can be daunting, it can be mentally draining, and it can just be depressing sometimes. And so for me, I saw career diversity as kind of like, you know, I don't have to do what is expected, because those expectations don't fit me. And so, you know, and your values change so much over a period of, like, you know, even within 5 years. I mean, coming into my program, I did not think that I wanted a family or I wanted to get married. That was not my priority. But then 3 years into it, then it shifted, you know, and then 2 years after that, it shifts. Like your values just shift. And, you know, now you have to think about other people that are, you know, that are in your life. Not that you have to, that you want to think, that you're sharing your life with, right? And you know, in that sense, you know, having the flexibility to look for different careers and different jobs, and not being, you know, not going where the job is, right? Being, the job should be where you're at, or where you're at mentally in life. And like I've been saying, like, that it should serve you rather than you serve it. So yeah, but yeah, and just that was, yeah, that was my experience. And I hope I'm not rambling too much, but yeah, I think overall it was very, I mean, like I said, I created community. Um, the networking part of it is beneficial, like professionally. And then post HWW, still now, I still have these network connections. But just overall, I think it just served me to really reflect on what I really wanted and needed. So, yeah.
Thank you, Blanca and Maggie. I'm gonna stop the recording now, and then we can open it up. I believe Maggie had an exercise, and then we'll open it up also for questions.